here's the video for lesson 4. So I know it's a shortened class today, so I apologize for that, but the engage says use greater than, less than, or equal to compare each of the pair of numbers. So 12 to 19. Well, 12 is obviously less than 19. Again, just like yesterday, if we use number lines, 19 is farther to the right. So 212 and 190. Well, 212 is farther to the right than 190, so that's greater than. So 15 and 1.5. Well, again, 15 is farther to the right than 1.5, so 15 is greater than. Yes, those are greater than signs, not sevens. So 9.02 and 9.20, because that's what that is. Well, think of it as $9.02 and $9.20. Well, $9.20 is more than $9.02, so 9.02 is less than 9.2. Now we've got 6.050 and 6.05. Well, we can add a 0 to the end of that. And so now they're the same number. So they're equal. Now 0.4. And that's a fraction. Well, 0.4 is 4 over 10. Well, I want that to be out of 40. So times 4 times 4, that's 16 out of 40. Well, 16 is bigger than 9, so this is greater than that. And now for G. Now this one's a little more complicated because they don't have common denominators. Well, so in order to make that happen, 19 over 24. Well, so I multiply by 21. And yes, I know a bunch of you just went 21. Well, 19 times 21. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. Placeholder. 2 times 9 is 18. Carry 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 1 is 3. And we add 9 and 0. 1 and 8. 3 and 0. So we get 399. Then we do 24 times 21. No. 1 times 4, 1 times 2. Placeholder. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. And we add. Well, 4 and 0 is 4. 2 and 8 is 10. Carry 1. 1 and 4 is 5. So 399 over 504. Now, for 19 over 21, we multiply top and bottom by 24. Well, we already know that 21 times 24 is 504, because we just did that. And so now we do 19 times 24. Well, 4 times 9 is 36, carry 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Placeholder. And, well, we know 2 times 19 is 38, because we just did that over there. 6 and 0 is 6. 7 and 8 is 15. Carry 1. 1 and 3 is 4, so that's 456. So, this this is 456 over 504. And this one is 399 over 504. Well, since they're both out of 504, 456 is bigger, and so 19 out of 24 is less than 19 over 21. And now, same process for the last one. So 16 over 17 times 12 times 12. Common denominator. Well, 16 times 12. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And 1 is 3. Placeholder. 1 times 16 is 16. So when I add 2, 9, 1, that gives me 192. So 17 times 12. 17 times 2 is 14. Carry 1. And 2 and 1 is 3. Placeholder. 1 times 17 is 17. Add. 0 and 4 is 4. 3 and 7 is 10. Carry 1. 1 and 1 is 2. So over 204. So this is 192 over 204. Now I know this is going to be over 204. And so now I do 11 times 17. Well, 1 times 17 is 17, placeholder, and 1 times 17 is 17. Shouldn't be a 0, because 7 plus 0 is 7. 1 plus 7 is 8, and 1, so that's 187. Well, 192 is more than 187, so it's greater than. And that's your activity. That's your engage. And why? So now, for your second activity. Now, I'm not there to give you a set of number cards. So hopefully, whoever's sub read the sub note and wrote a whole bunch of numbers on the board for you. And so those numbers and the second set of numbers, and so the set of numbers are, okay, so for the first one, that's 5.5, 9, 5, 9/8, 7, 1/4, 2, 6, 22.5, 8, 8/3, 0, 16, 1, 4, 17, 15, 10, 2.5, 29, 62, 78, 25, 100, 99, 87, 53, 30, 11, 14, 3, and 7.5. And you need to put those numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay, so you got to start with the smallest number and go to the biggest number. So Looking through, this is a whole long list of numbers. There's 32 numbers here. And so it's not easy. The smallest number is clearly 0. So we start with 0. Boom, gone. And so now, we look and see, are there any number, now we have a 1. Are there any numbers between 0 and 1? Well, we've got a 1/4. Do we have anything else that's between 0 and 1? So I'm scanning. So I had that. I've got this fraction. And I've got this fraction. Well, 9/8 is bigger than 1, and so is 8/3. All right, so then I'm going to move on, and I'm going to say I don't have anything else. So I'm going to go 1. Ding. Well, so now I'm looking at between 1 and 2. Well, 9/8 is 1 and 1/8. 8/3, 3 goes into 8 2 times with 2/3. So between 1 and 2 is definitely 9/8. So that's definitely there. Now, since I had no other fractions, do I see any 1.5s or anything? No. So then I can go with 2. Now, what else do I have? Well, I've got a 2.5. Well, 2.5 is 2 and 1/2. Well, 2 and 1/2 is less than 2 and 2/3. So I'm going to go 2.5 and then 8/3. So 2.5, 8/3. Okay. And then I look and I'm like, okay, well, then I've got a 3. Anything between a 3 and a 4? Well, I'm not seeing anything between a 3 and a 4, so I'm going to put a 4. I don't see anything between a 4 and a 5, and so I'm going to put my 5. But I do see 5.5. And then I've got, there's a 6. And then the number that makes that. And then we look, is there anything between 7 and 8? Yep, right here, there's a 7.5. So then we go to 8. Anything between 8 and 9? No. So we go to 9. Then 10. Then 11. I just saw that. Oh, there it is. Was there a 12? No. No 13, but there is a 14. and a 15. And then a 16. And then a 17. Okay. Now there's no 18, no 19, no 20, no 21, but there is a 22 and a half. Now, so all of these have been used except for the 29. Now there's a 25 here. Then 29. Then 30. Then after 30, I've got 53, 62, 78, 87, 99, and 100. Okay. Now, for the second group of numbers, okay, so I'm going to erase this section so that I can write down my next group. Now, thankfully, the next group isn't quite as long. So my next group of numbers are -23, -9, -5.5, -10, -22.5, -8, -5, -2, -22, -7.5, -3, -1, -7, -2.5, -9/8, and -1/4. Okay. And so now we want to put these in order from least to greatest. So we want to find the smallest number. So again, we're looking for, if we line them up, the farthest to the left. And so that means we're basically counting backwards. So the largest number will be the farthest left. So -23. Then we've got -22.5. Well, then -22. Well, then there's no -21s, -20s, 19s, 18s, 17s, 16s, 15s, 14s, 13s, 12, 11s, but we do have a -10. A -9, -8, a negative 7.5, a negative 7, no negative 6, but a negative 5.5, and then a negative 5, no negative 4, but we do have a negative 3, well, a negative 2.5, a negative 2, now negative 9/8, well, we set up above that 9/8 was 1 1/8, so negative 9/8 would be negative 1 1/8. So negative 9/8, then negative 1, and then negative 1/4. And that's activity 1. Okay, the largest number is the farthest from 0, so it's going to be the farthest to the left, and therefore the smallest. Now, for activity 2, comparing points on a line. Use each of the following terms at least once to describe or compare the values of M, N, P, and R. Now, there's several different correct answers for this. So we want to write a greater than statement. Well, we can say M is, backwards. We can say N is greater than M. P is greater than N. P is greater than M. R is greater than P. R is greater than N. R is greater than M. Any of those answers works. And then for less than, we're basically just switching it around. M is less than N. M is less than P. M is less than R. M, oops, not M. N is less than P. N is less than R. P is less than R. Any of those statements works, because it only asks you to make one for each of these. Now, name a pair of opposites. Well, if we look at N, that's 1, 2. 1, 2. So N doesn't have an opposite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's M and P. Because if we go one further, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. R doesn't have an opposite. So the only pair of opposites are M and P. And then a negative number. Well, that would be M or n. They're the only ones that are below 0. And so, if that's the case, they have to be negative. Now, for each of these, A, B, C, D, okay, this is actually pretty simple, although I know you guys, some of you are gonna have trouble with this because you're not gonna know what to do. Okay, it's telling you the value of some of these points. And so this comes back to our double number line thing, where you had to figure out how to space it out. So it's saying if P is 2.5, so 2 and 1/2. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, then that means this was 2, 1.5, 1 and 1/2. And so that makes that 3, 3.5, 4. Negative 1/2, negative 1, negative 1.5, negative 2, negative 2.5. And so now it wants to know, there's P, M is negative 2.5, N is negative 1, R is 4. And now we redo the numbering for the next question. If N is negative 0.4, so this is negative 0.4. Well, then this is negative 0.2, negative 0.6, negative 0.8, negative 1. Because if that's 0.4, then they have to be counting by 0.2s. So 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1. 1.2, 1.4, 1.6. And so N is that. M is negative 1. P is 1. R is 1.6. And again, we redo our counting system. So let's go with red this time. So if R is 200, well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So divided by 8. So 200 divided by 8. 8 goes into 20. 2 times. 8 goes into 40. 5 times. And so that means each one is 25. So 25, 50, 75, 100. 125, 150, 175. Negative 25, negative 50, negative 75, negative 100, negative 125. And so R is 200, M is negative 125, N is negative 50. See, negative 125, negative 50, P is 125. And notice that since we said M and P are opposites, P is 2.5, M is negative 1.5, 2.5. M is -1, P is 1. M is -125, P is +125. They keep being the opposite of each other. Okay, so let's pick a color. Which one haven't I? Let's go with purple. And so M is -15. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. So that means each one is 3. -3, -6, -9, -12. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So M is -15, N is -6, P is +15 because it's the opposite, and R is 24. And those are the answers. Okay. Now, on EdSite, you'll find your questions that you have to do for practice. You're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, for number 5, it says explain how to make these calculations mentally. So you're not actually being asked to find the answers. You're being asked how you would do this in your head. Well, these are really simple. So, for example, for A here, and make it 100 plus 54, then subtract 1. Okay? That's real simple. Okay? Explain why 0 is considered its own opposite. Well, it's in the middle. So it, okay. So since it's in the middle, it's its own opposite because its distance from itself is 0. And so it's its own opposite. Okay. So I'm going to be out longer than expected. I'll continue to submit videos for you, and you will have a quiz coming up next week. So make sure you're doing your assignments. Okay? I miss you guys. Bye.